This is how I made $50,000 on my first real estate flip at 17 years old. Today, I want to run down every little step and struggle that I went through to the finish line of where I netted $50,000 at the age of 17. If you saw my previous video where I was in the process of purchasing my first property and we haven't sold it yet, and I didn't share with you guys the finishing end. So that's what I want to do today. And I want to share with you more than just the finishing. First off, how did I find this deal? I found this deal actually through another investor, so through relationships, and he got this lead off his PPC campaign. And I want to just point out to you guys that I only knew this investor and I only was able to connect with him because I was in a whole mastermind full of other real estate entrepreneurs just like me. And the beauty of this is that I was able to bring in a lead, pay this other investor out, and take on this flip, and I didn't do any of my marketing myself, but I paid him the fee and was able to take this deal down because I'm the only Vermont real estate investor within Future Flipper program that was created by Ryan Pineda and is growing massively. Our masterminds are getting 1,000 plus attendees. So now seeing the value in these relationships is really crucial within this flip, because I was not going to be able to get this deal without being in the program and collaborating with other people. So that was a pretty simple way of getting the deal. I obviously had to do my own negotiation skills. I called up the owner many times. We chatted and I locked this deal up right away because I knew we could make this deal happen with the numbers he was giving. And at first, I want to tell you, he was starting at like 230,000. So I had a little bit of negotiating to do, and I had to make sure he is the right fit for us because we want to make sure we're providing value to other people as much as we are able to make the profit off of the property. So in this situation, I was able to figure out that this guy really needed a cash buyer like us so that we could close quickly, didn't take any fees out of him, and we were able to get this transaction done. And sellers like this usually need a little bit more guidance because they're in a situation where they don't have a lot of money and they can't afford the property. They don't want to deal with agents. And this guy was ready to sell this property within the next day. Unfortunately, real estate sales can't happen like that. So we had to wait because we had to sign the contract. We had to do our due diligence. So in the beginning, we agreed on $150,000 because he had a $100,000 mortgage, or so he thought, and he wanted $50,000 in his pocket. I got him down from actually the 200 to 230,000. So I thought I was doing pretty good. I got him down to the right price point, and we are going to be able to go in and make the repairs so we can list it on the market for the after repair value of around 200 to 230,000. So buying it at 150,000, we saw that it didn't need very many repairs, maybe just a clean out, some paint, some lipstick stuff for being in the area that it's in. And this is a Vermont property, so depending where you are, you honestly don't need a property that is like super magnificent and totally remodeled. Unlike if this property was in Nashville, we would have had to go through, done a whole cosmetic remodel to get it to the perfect condition that we could sell for top dollar. So after I negotiated that and locked it up, I was able to go out to the property. I then had to negotiate again because there was a little bit more that I thought. There was a lot more stuff I had to clear out. So I was able to negotiate it down to 135, and we realized that he had a mortgage of only 80,000, so we were able to still get $50,000 in his pocket, and that's what he was really wanting for. So we were able to still provide him what he wanted, as well as get it at a price point where we felt comfortable and safe. And what's so special about hearing about the $80,000 mortgage is that we ended up actually taking on this mortgage as a subject to. So we took over the deed of the property, we own it, but we just took over the payments for him on the mortgage, and that's what you call a subject to deal. We still ended up closing, giving him $50,000 in his pocket. So I had to come up with $50,000 to close on this property, and we can make sure we can get this deal on to the next step. And for me, I want to bring you guys back because this was right around June. I actually locked this property up the week of June 1st, and let me tell you, I was still in school, graduation time. Now, if you have all remembered when you guys were in school and it was graduation month, it can get pretty hectic for the last month of the year with graduation rehearsals, with all these awards, and I was also trying to get these real estate deals done. So there was a lot of stuff going on where I was stressed out, so much really busy work with school and stuff that I thought there was no value of, and I just wanted to go out there and work and make sure my property was getting done, and I had to go raise capital. And that was the biggest key here, was that I had to raise minimum $50,000 to close on this property. That if I didn't get this $50,000, that this seller wasn't able to close like we thought, and I was not going to get this deal that I knew was going to be amazing. Guess what happens? I got within a week of closing on this property, my backup lender backed out. So guess what? Now there is no backup. And I had 3 or 4 days to really go out there, put myself out there in this position where I was going to raise capital. And I only had 3 days to do it, mind you. And that is super crazy because the emotion I was feeling then was like super stressed out. We just graduated and I'm just like, I need to close on this property and I don't have the money. I literally went on Facebook groups, I went calling people, I posted out into my local RIA group. I was really desperate to find this capital. I went out to my masterminds. I'm like, coach, do you know anybody that has capital? Hey buddy, do you have any capital that you want to partner on this deal? I give you 50% of the profits. I don't care. I just want to get this deal done. Well, within those 3 days, I learned a lot of things. So I realized the importance of I could just go out there every single day and raise a ton of capital or really go after something. I just have to go for it like I'm super desperate every day and I can get more done. There, I was able to find 3 different people who were willing to put up the money to help me close on this property. There was a couple that wanted equity, which I was super okay with, but then another one, I was able to give a very amazing return, and I think we paid out at the end a 15% flat fee for $70,000, which would cover not only the closing, but it would also cover the cleanup and extra repairs that we would need to do for this property. What's amazing about this is this lady was actually already in my Vermont real estate meetup groups, and now I was able to provide her with an amazing return on her capital. So when I closed on this property, it was actually in July, and I actually had to extend escrow a couple times, not only because of me, but because of the attorneys were taking forever. And that's something else to remember is I wasn't able to close because escrow got extended. My other lender had to back out because it wasn't a timeline that he liked anymore. So I had to find someone. The seller was just so sick of it. He just wanted to sell. He wanted to get out. He didn't have any money and he just wanted his $50,000 and be out of this property. And I was like, man, I definitely want to buy this from you. I don't want to like mess anything up. Trust me, I wanted to close like a few weeks ago as well. And remember in the beginning, he said he wanted to close literally the next day after we spoke, and we had to wait like 30 days because that's how a real estate transaction works. So now he's super desperate to leave. He's getting antsy and I'm getting antsy and I'm getting stressed out because I don't have the money and I'm just trying to get everything in place. When it came to closing, what I did at 17 years old to be able to sign this, I added my sister under my LLC so she was part ownership so she could be a managing member and sign on behalf of the company, and that's what we did. We both co-signed on this property and I paid her 10% of the profits, and our projected numbers at the beginning was we're going to sell this for $230,000, we're going to buy it for $135,000, we're going to put about $5,000 to $10,000 into clean out, and then after my money costs and agent fees I was going to net that $55,000 or $60,000. So giving my sister a $5,000 signing return. Like she literally had to just sign a piece of paper and she made $5,000. So it worked out for her and it worked out for me because I just wanted to get the deal done. I had to do whatever it took because I just had to make it happen. I was like, I'm 17. I want to show people that it's possible if you just keep finding a way. And so I made it happen. So I finally had closing day. I was so ready. I thought the seller was going to be leaving the first day. Turns out he just didn't have the ride anymore because things got delayed. And so we had to wait 2 or 3 days before him to leave. And my friends were like, oh my God, he's gonna squat. I'm like, no, he's not. In that time though, personally, I drove my truck and trailer over there. I went twice to go pick up a lawnmower, a 4-wheeler, and a bunch of other stuff that I was gonna bring back home here. Things like that. I sold a lawnmower and a 4-wheeler and a bunch of other little items, which netted me $3,000 from the start within the 3 days of purchasing this property. So I was actually already in the plus. I only spent beforehand the $100 EMD, and I charged $500 on my credit card for an inspection just to make sure the whole property was good because I was relisting this. I wasn't going to do any work to it. So this is as is condition. I want to make sure the new buyers are going to be all set and we won't run into any issues later on. And this totally worked out because I only had $100 in, and technically that $500 on my credit card, and that wasn't going to be paid out until after I already got the funds from the excess funds from my private money lender to use that money on the property. So after those 3 days, I already had a cleaner and junk removal in place. These people were killers. They got in there and took out everything, and we did have some delays. I was a little bit upset about. I'm like, you guys should have been in there already, and the dumpster was not there. They showed up and it was just not there, and we were like, what is going on? So we had to wait for the dumpster company to actually deliver it. Luckily, they spent all day just bagging up stuff, getting things prepared to just throw in the dumpster, and it would have been all set. They got that done within a few days. So within the next week, we are already cleaned out And my agent I was already having her lined up, sent out there to go take photos of the property and list it. And unfortunately, again, we ran into an issue because the dumpster was again right in the driveway when she was going to be taking pictures to list this property. And I was like, oh my goodness, could anything else be more wrong? Again, this dumpster is here and it's not supposed to be, like, it's gonna look bad in the pictures. Luckily, we had a good photographer and he was able to Photoshop it and make sure that dumpster was not in the way. And we had this listed within the next few days after they got the photos aligned and got the listing updated and they got everything sent out. So within the next week, we actually had around 5 showings, which I was, feeling hopeful for. We got one lowball offer. I was like, yeah, there's no way I can take that. I'm losing money at that point. And then it slowed down and I was a little bit fearful because in July and August, if you guys remember, of 2022, everybody was freaking out because rates were rising and rates actually doubled within the year. So with the market slowing down, I was a little bit fearful that it was going to take a little bit longer. I might have to drop the price. Obviously, I had a ton of room to make negotiations and still make a profit on it, at least break even. So I knew that, hey, we were still priced around the market and Vermont has very little to no housing. And I knew that there was not a lot of properties in the area just like this one. So we were priced right where I thought we should be. We ended up actually having one last showing after the 3 days of like no showings. And they offered a cash offer around $220,000 or $225,000. I was able to get them up to the $232,500 and we ended up closing within the 30 to 45 days. Everything went completely smoothly on their end. All they had to do was wait for their house to sell and they had their other buyers already getting qualified for their loan. And we were hoping on them closing on that property so they had the cash to close on ours. And on the sale side, it was the easiest, most smooth thing possible. And at that point, I was just waiting for my cash to hit my account because we had to wait for the timeline for the other people to close. And I just had to go to the attorney's office and sign my papers and wait for my documents to come in. And that's when I netted my $50,000 in my pocket and I paid out my sister $5,000. I paid my lender $10,500 on her $70,000. And it was a win-win for all. The seller got this $50,000. I was able to get this property subject to and raise the capital on it and learn the whole process and make my own profits on it. Not only were the profits good, but the knowledge and the experience that I could share with others and use for myself was exponentially worth it and way more worth than having the money. And let me tell you, during this point was going through some of the hardest points in my life where I honestly just didn't care about the money. I just wanted to get this property off my hands because we were dealing with a lot of headaches. And I ended up having some issues with the bank we had the mortgage with because not a lot of them are familiar with subject to. And they were actually, funny story I want to bring out to you guys is they were yelling at me because they thought I was scamming this person, that I was I was like part of this big scheme. And really, like, to them, they should have just known, like, I'm literally just a normal guy buying this house. I solved the seller's problem. That's exactly what he wanted. We came to a good agreement. It was nothing I forcefully could have just taken out of his hands. He was an adult that can make his own decisions, and that's what he wanted to do. And they were coming at me thinking I scammed him and I took advantage of him, when in reality, transactions like this happen all over the country. And this is how businesses run, is by providing value. So we were able to get him a quick sale. We were able to come to an agreement at a certain price point where we took over the mortgage. We paid him his $50K in his pocket, and we took us over his property when he left everything. He literally only left with his luggage, and typically when you're trying to sell a property, you want to clean it up beforehand. He didn't want to do any of that. He couldn't do it himself. He didn't have the money to hire it out. He just needed cash in his pocket, and he was in the stressful situation where he just wanted out. And we were able to provide that solution for him. And I was able to actually learn a lot from this deal and learn that I can just go out there, raise capital, I can do all this, and I did it all at 17. It's just about asking the word how and just going out there, taking the action and attacking it as much as you can until it comes to you. So for me, I use all these profits, I'm reinvesting back into myself and back into my business so that I can find more real estate deals. So let me know if you have anything around the Nashville area or in Vermont. And in 2022, some people slowed down buying, and in 2023, I am full force ready to go, and we're gonna be buying properties, we're gonna be wholesaling. So let's partner up and do some deals together. And if you need help getting your deals across the finish line, reach out to me on Instagram, and I wanna help you and inspire you to go find your first deal, no matter any age. So if you're in a position where you think it's like, oh my God, I can't do anything right now, it's like, it sucks. Trust me, you can. You just gotta keep pushing through. And let me know what else you wanna see and hear from me down in the comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.